Hey everybody, I'm Sin. Welcome to the Book Nook. Today we're going to be doing our February wrap-up. We're going to do a wrap-up for February. All the books I read this February. I think there is 10. I did not count them. I can do that right now. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10. I read 10. I read 10 books in February. That's quite a bit. It is our February reading wrap-up. I'm going to go through all 10 books that I read, and then if you stick around to the end, we'll talk about my 3 favorites, and then one that had an ending that was weird, and my thoughts on that one. But let's get started with what I've read in the month of February. So the first one up is The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. This book was a whirlwind of action and adventure. Don't forget to toss a coin to your Witcher, baby. This was a lot of fun to read. If you like fantasy, it's just a good time. Fun, adventurous, and exciting. Yeah, if I've already had videos where I've talked about some of these books at length, I'm not going to spend too much time on, getting into all that stuff. And I might try to use these card things and put a card for this, because I do have a standalone review for this book. So the next book we have is called A Song Below Water. That is a book about... It's a fantasy book, and it focuses on these 2 girls, and one girl's a siren. So, and in society, like, people know what sirens are, and they're not looked upon as well, and people think they're bad. And especially in this book, sirens are only African American women. Society as a whole, it kind of shows how they react to them, and just it's kind of... It was a really kind of eye-opening read for being a fantasy book, how it portrayed things. There's protests in the book, and just how it is, and how people look at you and have this whole idea of who you are without ever getting to know you. They just judge you based on basically the color of your skin and what they've heard about sirens. So it was a pretty good read. This book I heard about from one of my favorite booktubers that I like to watch a lot, Lovely Reads 101, LK. She is amazing, has just a bright and beautiful persona, and is always a pleasure to watch her videos. I really like her a lot. So I will link her channel down below. Check her out. She's amazing. So the next book up we have is... Light Years from Home by Chen, and I also have a standalone review for this. This is a story about UFO abduction. I really liked it. Great frickin' read. If you like stuff about UFOs, this is one for you. Light Years from Home, Chen. I'll put a card for this one too, if I figure out how to use them. Alright, so the next one, you've probably seen me ranting and raving about how much I love this on every single social media channel that we have. This book's amazing. I cannot say enough good things about it. It's a fantasy book, and it's so fantastic. I have a standalone review of this one as well. If you like fantasy and just beautifully written books that have adventure and romance and action and just all those good things bundled into one, Daughter of the Moon Goddess is amazing. Go get it. And, also this is a part of a duology, and the new book is going to be out at the end of the year. That's what I know so far. So, the next book, this is Light from Uncommon Stars. This book focuses on the story of 3 different characters. Katrina, who is a transgender woman, and then Shizuka Satomi, who is, she made a deal with the devil, where she has to collect souls. And she has to collect 7 of them and turn them over. And she, so far, has turned in 6 of them and needs to do 1 more. And then one more character, Lan Tran, who is a outer space captain. So it's fantasy, fiction, sci-fi, all rolled into one, and quite the interesting story. The book is worth it just for the story of Katrina alone. It's very heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. And just, there's a lot of... Oh, God, I don't have the list, but there's a lot of triggers in this. A lot of triggers. I will have to look it up and then put a little disclaimer warning. I know it's like some of them are homophobia and rape and discrimination and a lot of other triggers, but it's an intense, some of it's intense, but it's a good, decent book. All right. Next up, we have Unbear Carol by Josh Malerman. This book was awesome. I really liked it. I love horror books. I really do. Horror and fantasy. Unbury Carol, I will have a standalone review for this coming. It's not out yet, but it will be soon, and it might be out before this video. I haven't decided yet because it is edited. I gotta figure out when I'm scheduling these. So if it is, then I will put a link for it. But yeah, this is a fantastic book. I guess, do you want to know a little bit about it? We'll give you a tidbit. It's about this woman, Carol Evers, and she has a condition where she falls into these comas and people think she's dead, and only a few people know. And the next time it happens, her a-hole husband decides he's just gonna leave her dead and basically wants to take all her money. And the story of what happens. Does she get buried alive? Does someone save her in time? I don't know. You gotta read it to find out. All right, next up. In Another Light by A.J. Banner. This was a psychological thriller. It was a quick read. It was on the shorter side. It follows the story of Phoebe Glassman. It's been 3 years since she lost her daughter and her husband in a car accident, and she works in a morgue, and she's basically the cosmetologist to the dead. So she fixes up people for viewings. So she's in this like morbid career, and she's still kind of mourning the loss of her family, and just like stuff happens. One day this body comes in that looks almost like her, and then stuff starts spiraling and getting real weird and intense and drives her to the edge of sanity. And it's a wild read, and it was really good. Highly recommend that one. All right, so the next book was Hex, and I also loved this book. It was so scary. It was so creepy. It was magically delicious. Deliciously scary and horrifying. It kept me up at night. I cannot recommend Hex enough if you want a scary book about a witch from 350 years ago in a cursed town. I also have a standalone review for this, which is not edited, but will be up at a future time, coming to this YouTube channel at some point. All right, so the next one we have is Along the Saltwise Sea. That's by A. Deborah Baker. This book was the second in the series, which I didn't know, but it was really fun. It was a fun read. It was short. It was magical. It's about these kids who stumble onto this cottage, and they've been out and about and walking for a really long time, and they're tired and no one's home, and so they stay there. And then when they get up, they find out they were basically trespassing, and it's owned by a pirate queen, and now they got to work off their debt on her pirate ship. And it's super fun. It was a fun read. I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. Along the Saltwise Sea. And then the last book I read was Agatha of Little Neon. This one was recommended by another YouTuber that I watch called Greg from Supposedly Fun, and I will link their info down in the channel. And then also Hex was recommended by the Jeff Word, aka Beef Daddy. I'll link that as well. I'll link his channel as well if you guys want to check out some of my favorite booktubers. So yeah, this book was about nuns. And it's funny because it made me think back to, I used to have this friend, Nikki, growing up, and I would go to her house all the time. And they had a nun that lived in their basement, which I always thought was weird. June the nun. She just lived down there and hung out. She was really nice. I didn't really think much of it at the time. It was always weird because their computer was down in the basement where the nun lived. So we would go down there and we'd play like video games on the computer while the nun would just like hang out and watch TV. I don't remember her wearing like a habit or anything either. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, this book is about nuns, and these nuns basically, where they are currently living, they end up going bankrupt, so they have to be relocated, and they end up living and taking care of these people in this halfway house. And it is a story of Agatha, who's trying to, figure out what she wants to do with her life. She ends up becoming a teacher. At first, she's terrified to do it, but it really kind of opens her eyes, and then she's not spending as much time with her sisters. She gets to know herself and figure out you question your faith, you question everything. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I living the right life? Is this what I really want to do? It's one of those. And it's also, you get to know the people in the halfway house, and there's a lot of sad parts, and it's emotional, but it was a really good read. Just, if you're not feeling the want to read something emotional right now, I understand. The state of the world is awful right now, and I understand. So, but yeah, it was a really good read. I enjoyed it immensely. Thanks to Greg from Supposedly Fun for talking about that book, because I probably never would have picked it up. All right, so now, if you have stuck around, I'm going to tell you about my top 3 favorites. And then one of the books that had a weird ending that I'll tell you my thoughts on that. So my top 3 out of all those, obviously, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I love that book so much. Here, I'm going to just take these off the screen so there's nothing up there. So yeah, favorite number 1, Daughter of the freaking Moon Goddess. Then Hex. Hex was also super freaking awesome. Freaking frack. Don't talk back. And then I have to actually look at my list for this last one. Oh, it was Unbear Carol. So as you can see, fantasy and horror wins the day. Hey. So those were my 3 favorites. And then I want to talk about Light from Uncommon Stars. And that's by Ryka Aoki. And that book, for Katrina alone, that character, it's worth reading because her story is heartbreaking and beautiful and really good. And then Shizuka Satomi too, her story was really good. And then the third character, Lan Tran, just fell so flat for me, and it felt like she had no personality and kind of fell by the wayside, and she was there in part of the story, but just didn't, I don't know, she needed some more TLC, some more attention, because even some of the lesser characters I felt like had more persona than her, and so that was a little disappointing for me. And then I'm not going to give a spoiler for the ending, but I thought the story was really awesome, but the ending ruined it for me. It took away the emotional quality of what was happening, and just kind of it was you were getting this oh man, your emotional roller coaster, and then it was oh, everything's fine and everything's roses, it's all okay, hey, and that's how it ended. And I was I almost would have preferred a sadder ending, because it would have meant more. So I also didn't do a standalone review of it because the ending really, like I said, it kind of ruined it for me. But otherwise, it was really good. So for Katrina alone, it was really good. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Anywho, thank you again for hanging out with me in the Book Nook. Subscribe, and scuba dive. Turn on those notifications and come back and see me again. And we'll talk about more book stuff, and I'll probably ramble on about nonsense as well, because that's what I do here, because I'm a weirdo. Yep. Anywho, thank you again. We'll see you next time. I'm going to just keep waving and go, nah, I don't know. Bye.